Hey everyone. So I have a really interesting story. So I was coming home and I rode the metro tonight from the North Hollywood station to Union Station. And I got on the metro and I had to walk past somebody who got very angry that I walked past them without apologizing or saying excuse me. So he got up and he said, "Excuse me? You're not going to apologize?" And I said, "For what?" And then he gets up and he starts to get in my face and he says, "When you walk by somebody, you have to apologize to them." And I said, "Well, I'm not apologizing to you." And then he said, "What, didn't your mom ever teach you not to walk by someone, not say I'm sorry?" And I just looked at him, and this person had so much anger and so much rage in his face, and I had a lot of thoughts go on in my mind. And the first one was to just breathe, because that's the first thing that you do in a situation like this. You just breathe. So for those of you that know me, not only am I an actor, not only am I an acrobatic performer, but I work at a martial arts studio as well. So things like this are kind of what I prepare for. So I had a really interesting thought, and this is how it kind of ties into the whole knee thing, is I had this thought that if this person tries to hit me or assault me right now, I'm not going to be able to do much about it. I mean, I have my hands, but that's it. I can't move around too well. I can't kick. It's kind of a thing. So I really thought, I think what we're going to have to do is I'm going to have to use my words, and I'm going to have to find other ways of redirecting his energy. And better yet, maybe I'll just listen. So he kind of got up in my face, and I didn't budge, and he stared at me, and he goes, "Oh, I can see you're ignorant. So I'm gonna pray for you." So I said, "Okay, yeah, thank you." He's getting like really aggressive. Like he's aggressively praying for me. I see you're ignorant, but I'm pissed at you. 7 years ago, when I was in prison, I would have laid your ass out, right? And all this, but I'm gonna pray for you. So he leaves. He goes to the other side of the train, and so I'm sitting there minding my own business. And 5 minutes later, he goes, "I see you're trying to antagonize me." And I look over at him like, "I'm not looking at you." And he goes, "Yeah, you are. That's why I moved to this side of the train. I'm sick of you looking at me." And I said, "Look, I am not looking at you. That's the last thing I'm looking at." There was a couple kids near him that were singing. That's what I was looking at, but I was not looking at him. And he started coming closer to me, and I told him, I said, "Look, you need to stop coming close to me. You need to stay away from me." And that really made him mad, and he said, "Oh, you don't get to tell me what I can and can't do." And he got up in my face again, and he kept telling me, I was in prison for 7 years, and if that was then, we'd be fighting right now, but I found God, and I'm going to pray for you, and he's getting really upset with me, and there's a book that I'm reading, and while I'm reading it, he kind of, it falls to the floor, so while he's berating me, he picks up my book and hands it to me, so it's really funny. But then he kept going. He kept going. He said that, he kept talking about how all lives matter, not just black lives matter, and then everyone's life on the bus matters, and then he proceeded to call me an ignorant white boy. And then I said, "Well, if all lives matter, why don't you just call me ignorant instead of an ignorant white boy?" And he shook his head and he told me I was being smart. And then he kept saying that I offended him, and I kept telling him, "I didn't offend you. This is in your head. This is something that's going on in your head right now, and I don't know what it is, but I did nothing to you. I did not mean to offend you." And he started telling me this story. He started telling me this story about how earlier that day 2 police officers had profiled him. I should mention he is he's a black man, And he was talking about how he was walking down the street minding his own business, and 2 white cops started to search him, and he said, "Yeah, if I was white, that wouldn't happen to me." And then he started talking about all these events that we've been hearing in the news about, black men being shot to death by white police officers, but if they were white people, they would have gotten away with it. And then he went back to giving me a hard time, and I told him, I said, I'm really sorry about what happened to you earlier today. I'm sorry that they treated you like that, but them treating you like that does not give you an excuse to treat me or anyone else on this train like this. This is wrong. What they did was wrong, and what you are doing is wrong. And then he proceeded to tell me how much he hated the justice system. He said that he was in prison since he was 16. He's now 26. And he said that he came out a worse person. And he said that no one cares about rehabilitating people. All they want to do is lock them away and torture them. And then I said, yeah, I understand. I have a friend of mine that went to prison for a nonviolent crime. I know other people that they're awaiting the same fate. And he said, oh, so you know? I said, yeah. And then he kind of looked at me and he said, I got these anger management issues. Every day I tell myself I don't want to go back to jail. I got in an argument with a girl earlier today, and I was this close to punching her in the face. And then two guys grabbed me, and they said, when you get to the North Hollywood station, you're going to jail. And, he didn't. But he was this close, he said. He was this close, and he says he always talks to his pastor because now, he got out of prison, he found God, so he's trying to make him a better person. He always tells his pastor how much anger management problems he has. And he looked at me and he said, yeah, I got problems with myself. I got problems with other people. And I told him, I said, look, I didn't disrespect you at all. But these things that are occurring are happening in your head. And he looked at me again and he said, they ruined me. And yeah, he started not being as angry as he was. And he started to calm down. And we were just having a conversation about how a lot of things that are going on are not fair. Now, to be to be honest, he could have also had a mental issue too. But the things that he was saying made a lot of sense. And I remember by the end of the conversation, I told him that I loved him, and he said that he loved me too. And he shook my hand, and at the next station he got off. So I guess, really didn't really anticipate that outcome from our first interaction because I literally thought he was going to hit me. And, I guess the silver lining with the whole, knee thing is that it really made me realize that I am going to have to find a way to deal with this in a nonviolent way. And what I learned is that no matter what someone does to you, if they come at you with no matter what kind of energy they come at you, if someone is angry at you and you did nothing to them, if someone comes after you and they want to hit you or they want to curse at you or they want to do something really mean to you, chances are it's because they're hurt too. And I think you'd be surprised that if you just listen to somebody, and if you just listen to them, you don't have to say anything, you just listen to them and let them know that they're being listened to, sometimes you're going to find that person's really hurt, and that you just listening to them means a lot to them. And not only will it de-escalate the situation, you might have done something really nice for somebody. So, yeah, I don't want to get too much into this, with everything that's going on, in the news, whether it's real or not, with, these seemingly what's starting to be racially charged incidents. Just know that it's not. It might. Just know that if somebody is looking down, if somebody is looking angry, especially if this is a person of color, or maybe they're just having a bad day, I don't know. But if you see angry people out there, or if someone is angry towards you, maybe take a second to listen to them, or maybe offer to help them somehow, or give them, I don't know, anything, money, a hug, something. I think you'd be really surprised at what you find. So all I can say is that it seems to me that there are a lot of really hurt people out there. So love them. Alright, so I kind of want to make a couple clarifications. First off, I made this video last night, right in the heat of the moment, right when I got back home. So I think it's a good idea to kind of engage the left brain for once, and kind of clarify some things and kind of tie everything together. So first, I wanted to make note that what really started this incident off is that when I got on the train, this guy, his feet were in the middle of the aisle, and because I had nowhere else to go, and because I couldn't really move too well, I had to kind of pick my knee up and step over his feet. And I guess he took offense to this, or what I really think happened is he was just really looking for a reason to fight somebody, and that was his reason. I also want to add that I know I focused a lot on, not a lot, but I had a little focus on the issue of race in this, and the reason being is because that's what happened. He was basically pointing out the fact that I was white, and he was taking out his angers and aggressions out on me. But I really wanted to kind of wanted to take this opportunity, after I've had some time to think about this, to kind of extrapolate or zoom out, in the sense that we see a lot in the news lately. I started to see videos of different protests. I think the last one was in Milwaukee, is that right? Milwaukee, where they were targeting white people supposedly. And I don't know if that's true or not, because I also believe that there are a lot of agent provocateurs and there's a lot of falseness in the media. But let's say that it is, okay? So, we have, what people think are violent people that are angry towards white people. But at the same time, I also know of Trump supporters that are constantly angry and screaming and saying, Black Lives Matter's this, Muslims are that. But this is one thing that I do know for a fact, is that you do have black people, you have white people, you have Muslim people, and you really, what you're left with is people. That's the key word. And what I'm finding now is that if you kind of remove that, that preface to their name, you're left with people, and there's a lot of angry people out there. And me personally, the way that I feel about things, I don't, when I see an American, or I see a Canadian, or I see an Iranian, I see a human, I don't really believe in national borders either. So if we kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture, we have a lot of sad and angry humans out there. So I kind of wanted to make a point to illustrate that, and to say how I felt about that. So again, take time with each other and treat each other with respect. Also, this concept of listening, it's interesting. I feel that because I was in that particular situation, I had the sense that I really am going to have to find a nonviolent way to deal with this. So it's really fascinating to see what happens when you listen to someone, and not just listen to someone, because it's so easy. There's so many levels to kind of take something like this. For example, in self-defense, you can maim someone, you can maul someone if they try to attack you. Okay, that's one thing you can do. Or you can physically redirect their energy or throw them. That's kind of a higher level. But really the highest level that I found was an example of last night, where without having to do that thing, you can de-escalate a situation. But there's even more levels to that. You can listen to someone, and then you can just straight up be with them. And it's so easy. It's so easy, especially for someone who's a really conscious, aware person, to kind of look at these examples in the news or in real life, like I faced these incidents of angry people, and it's so easy to go, oh, you're just angry. Deal with it. This is what you should do. This is how you should handle that. You shouldn't feel this way. And that's cool. You're right. But it's a whole other level to actually be there with them in that instant. As uncomfortable as that is, and just let them emote and feel what they're going through. Because, yeah, they shouldn't be acting that way, but you get a better sense of why they're doing it. For example, when I was listening, I was really listening intently, and one thing that really struck me about what he said is he looked at me at one point, and he looked at me and he said, "It's people like you that want to put me back in jail." And I listened to that. And by really being there and listening, I realized, I kind of deduced, I actually don't want him to go to jail. But what's happening here is that he has this story running in his head that everyone's out to get him, that everyone wants to hurt him and throw him back in jail. And I told him, this is in your head. And it was only because I really breathed and listened to him that I could really understand his pain in this story that was running in his head. So, again, listen to people. Another irony is that I was actually in the process of reading a book, and the chapter, coincidentally or not coincidentally, happened to be about listening. So I'll give a little plug. I was reading this book at, at Left Brain Turn Right, and the full title is An Uncommon Path to Shutting Up Your Inner Critic, Giving Fear the Finger, and Having an Amazing Life. It's written by Anthony Mandel, and I'm actually taking classes at his school. They're acting classes. Really awesome stuff. Really great book. And I'm only got to chapter 2, but a lot of it was about just being in another person's space, and just being in general, just learning how to be and not do anything. And it's just so funny how that worked. So again, I think that the highest level of martial arts or self-defense is to, I don't want to toot my own horn, it's what I did last night, and I think in light of everything that happened to me, especially with my injury, I think I was put in a position to do that. And I also think that just having finished that chapter of that book definitely had a factor in that. And one last thing before I go is, can I just say that our prison system in here in this country is royally screwed up. As soon as we privatize something like this, we no longer rehabilitate people, but we have private institutions that are really just seeking to get money from taxpayers. I mean, you have violent offenders, rapists, people who are in there for assault. They don't have the mandatory minimums that people who are in there for drug offenses do. And I think that's crazy. I think that's absolutely insane. Where in a million years does that make sense? And this person that I ran into, I don't know what his offense was, but I think it's a pretty clear indicator of what prison does to people. This man was terrified of going back, and he had a program in his head running that told him that he would go back. And just go look at recidivism rates in prison. They're pretty high. Most people that go, a lot of them go back in. So, I know I've been spending most of my time talking about my knee injury, so, all of a sudden I'm going from dude with the busted knee to dude with the busted knee that's just dropping truth bombs. So, funny how that works, but just something to consider. And with that, I will... How do I end it? I don't even know how to end these things, really. I just started doing this, so it's just kind of like happening. So, well, I'll do this. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time. Later.
That's how you end it.
There we go.